What up, peeps? It's your girl, Dosh, coming back to you for Real Takes. Today I'll be doing a review to the movie titled Creed 2. Now, before I jump right into it, I want to let it be known that I'm going to be doing a spoiler review. So I'm going to jump right into that. I just wanted to make sure there was no confusion. It will be, of course, noted in the subject line. So when people see that, they can just continue on if they don't really want to get into that, especially if you have not seen the movie. So with that said, let's just go ahead and jump into this now. With me, I was excited, of course, that this movie was coming out. I want to say, probably was it late last year, earlier, we saw the trailer. It was amidst prior to Black Panther coming out that, of course, Michael B. Jordan, we come back to do Creed 2. Now, when they did the first one, I enjoyed it because, of course, at the helm, director Ryan Coogler was attached. Wasn't so familiar with him, of course, only with Fruitvale Station. So when he did this movie, I was very excited for that because of the story they were going to be talking about and pertaining to Adonis Creed, which was, of course, Apollo Creed's son. So that made me more excited, hyped. Sylvester Stallone being attached made it even better. And it's just all the excitement for this. This came out in 2015, did very well, and of course Ryan Coogler went on to do some other things. Not to say it's bigger and better, but definitely bigger. And that was in the pretense of Black Panther that has opened up and has opened up many other doors. Now everybody figured we might get a Creed 2, and just thought we might get Ryan Coogler, but it looks like he is going to take a step back. He has some other commitments, of course, Black Panther 2 being another one, but then he decided that he felt confident that he has somebody in mind who could do it, and the director is Stephen Caple Jr. Now, I'm not familiar with him so much. I know he's done a couple of short films and, of course, some TV shows. I know one of them he's actually done was Grownish. So I was actually, kind of iffy a little bit on him, whatever, but I said, seeing him in a more wider release, major film production, this would kind of, give us a little bit more to see what he can do. Some people are kind of iffy about him doing it because we're not very well known and he's not as established, but you know what, Ryan Coogler had faith, he put him out there, and I feel like he did justice to one of his first, major movie films. Same thing going with Ryan Coogler. Everyone needs their start, and I love that they opened his arms to him, and just I can't say enough about him putting his stamp on this. Let me just say how much I loved the movie. I was in a packed audience at my regular theater of choice over at Regal Cinema. Shout out to Regal. And let's just say that it was just so good. Now, if you all remember, of course, this definitely pertains to the situation. You saw the trailer, of course, in regards to what's happening. That, of course, Ivan Drago, his son, Victor Drago, is being, showcased, who wants to go and challenge, of course, Adonis Creed to fight. Now, at first, I was just like, oh, it's going to feel like it's going to be recycled and all that. We might just be dealing with this throughout the whole thing, whichever. And that is true. We're dealing with this fact that I see this movie as kind of like a revenge slash redemption type of film of sorts. And from that being, of course, Adonis wanting his in some ways honestly revenge. His father, Victor's father, Ivan, took his father from him. You all remember the iconic movie where of course Carl Weathers playing Apollo Creed. He goes in a fight with him. At first it was supposed to be Rocky, but then Apollo does and all that, and then it gets so bad that they were like, they want to stop the fight. He's like, don't stop the fight, whatever. And of course he keeps getting it because Ivan is all about just winning the belt, whatever, winning the title. He didn't care if he broke him, as he put, he's like, I'm going to break you. Yes, I did. I'm cheesy. So, he ends up doing it, and it was one of those things where, of course, the hurt of it all from the standpoint of Rocky feeling like he should have the fight, but he wanted to, abide by his friends, feelings and his wishes, and just to have to live with that. And then, of course, Rocky taking his fight, and then you seeing what happened, and then him, getting the upper hand on Ivan, and then, winning the fight in Russia, and now look where we are present day, over 30 years later. We see in the beginning of the movie, of course, the training, the boxing happening in Russia with Ivan treating his son, Victor Drago, getting him prepped, whatever. Now, unbeknownst to Adonis and Rocky, they're just doing their fight. Of course, he's doing, a fight with the guy playing Danny Stutman Wheeler, played by Andre Ward. Of course, he wants that payback, he wants that fight, he wants his vehicle back. When I'm gonna give me them keys, and he gets them good. He wins the belt. It was a good fight. And that was interesting. So then from there, you of course see they're still training in Russia, whichever. And then this is when we see the promoter, and that's played by, excuse me, his name is Russell Hornsby. He plays the guy, his name, I want to say is, what is it, Buddy Marcel. And kind of, annoying, whatever and all that, slimy, whatever and all that. He all about bringing it together. He wants to be the one to bring the fight, of the decade, whichever. And this would be the perfect one because, of course, it'll bring him back into, the fold with dealing with Rocky, Adonis, dealing with the fact that, yeah, you the one that took my, your father took my father. And he's almost like, I'm going to repeat the same cycle and I'm going to come for you now, whichever. So, of course, I like how he kind of, they kind of try to blindside them because, of course, he's out with his girlfriend, Bianca, and they're, having food. You see that in the trailer, and he sees it, and he's not aware. They're thinking he's talking about Andre Ward, aka, Danny Stuntman wanting another rematch, whatever. It's like, I just got the belt. I ain't nobody, going to be doing no fight again so soon, whichever, unbeknownst to him. Of course, you see the scene where, of course, Ivan, played by Dolph Lundgren, is sitting in the restaurant, and Rocky is not aware, and he comes around, and he's talking to him, and he's like, you're here, after all these years, whichever, wanting to talk to me about supposedly some fight, whatever, and he's not even here for this. But of course, he sees a scene of his son standing at the front of the door, and he's just looking at him like, oh my God, this boy's tall and massive. And you can only imagine. And I mean, I tell you, I was curious who they're going to bring into the fold to go up against Michael B. Jordan playing Adonis. Who would be the perfect fit to look the part? And I felt like they found the perfect person to play him. Florian Montu, honestly, he did an excellent job. He was great. When I think about the overall look, the physicality, whichever, plus the fact that he has background being an avid boxer already, that made it even more believable for him to be the person to definitely be his formidable opponent in the ring. Now, when we see them training, of course, you see Michael B. joining. He's under the water, whatever, and all. He's doing his thing, whichever, preparing and all that, the little fight sequences, with the gloves, whatever. Then you see the parts with Florian Montu, aka Big Nasty, Victor, doing his thing. I'm gonna tell you, that brother's like a human mountain. The way they were showing him, doing his workouts, the parts of him running, and Ivan following him, and very harsh, on him, very stern with him. It was almost like at times their characters, the father-son dynamic, and that's another thing within this movie this time around. You get other different focuses, which I love. You get the focus of the father and son between Ivan and Victor. I don't feel like they have a really good bond. It's almost like he basically, had his child, with Ivan Drago, played by Bridget Nielsen. Certain things happen because you can see it's just them. She's nowhere to be found, so that lets you know it's all about them. And then secondly, just the fact that he's growing him. He's basically nurturing him and growing him to be this fighter. He wants this opportunity for his son to do good with him, since, of course, he lost the fight against Rocky. So it's like, it's nothing about being loving to him. It's all about just this, I need you to do this, you need to do this. When I tell you to run fast, I want you to run faster, because it's a scene where you see him running, he's kind of easing up to him when he stops, whatever. And you can see, not to say he has fear in him, whatever, but just the fear of his father looking disappointed and he's not doing enough to prove himself to his father, when actuality he is. They're doing their own boxing scenes down there where he's fighting, whatever and all that. And of course, like I said, Russell Hornsby's character goes down there, Buddy goes down there to visit, whatever. He's like, you ready, whichever. Okay, we're going to put things in motion. So this is all the stuff that was leading up to that. Of course, you see, like I said, the fight scenes, whatever. Now you see the confrontation, not so to speak, but the discussion outside of Rocky's home between him and Adonis, which is in the trailer. And he's like, I want to do this fight. And he's just like, you have so much to be so happy for. Why do you got your belt, you got your girl, newly engaged. It's like, why are you trying to ruffle feathers? Why do you feel the need to do this? And the thing that comes up, which is one of the best parts that I really enjoy, because it really is almost somewhat a focal point as to what is going on with Adonis. He makes it known. He's like, honestly, what are you fighting for? What is your really reason? Whatever. And he's like, I just told you. And it's like, he doesn't really believe his answer. And it's really not an answer. It's like, it's in some ways being kind of like a hothead about it. You just want to go and you just want to fight. Oh, he did this, this, he did this, my dad, he did this, whatever. I want revenge. I want this. And it's just like, it's got to be more. this can't be the reason you want to constantly fight, whatever and all, and this is always your basis for anything, of course, for that particular situation with happened to his dad Apollo. But then every time, when it comes to another fight, what is going to be your sole purpose? Is why are you fighting? Why are you doing this fight? And he just couldn't back him. He had to take a step back. And of course, he throws a little below the belt, little punches about him. It's like being there for when he had cancer, this and all that, throwing in his face and all, and the things he did, whatever. And of course, the below the belt when he makes a comment about how he, should have been there and how he could have done things better with his dad. His dad would be here. That was harsh, but he was like, yeah, you're right. And in the end, he knows that because he's told him, I have to live with that. You don't have to live with it. I have to live with that choice, whichever. And it bothers him, and you can tell. It was sad because he expected Rocky just to fall in line, but he's like, no, I've been down this road. I don't want to deal with this again. I'm not here for this. And you see the scenes where you can truly feel like Rocky has been through everything. He's been through it all. They show him at the cemetery looking, over his wife's, grave, talking to Adrian. And it's just so sad because it's just, sometimes I did break into tears just looking at it because of all the memories of all the other Rocky films and the scene where he's at now, feeling alone, not reaching out to his son, Robert, aka Bobby. It's like, he's living alone. He doesn't have to or feel alone. You have a son out there who definitely, wants to be there for you. You want to be there for him, his own family. And it's just so sad because it's like, yes, he does have Adonis and he does have, Adonis's mother as a good friend, and of course Bianca and all of them, other people rally around him, but he truly, honestly is alone. He's in Philly. It's just, it's just him. So, and then I like the other aspect of seeing a little bit more focus on Adonis and Bianca. Of course, them eventually him meeting her, seeing her singing, whichever, dealing with the hearing impaired situation with them at first in there, and then of course the situation with them. Of course, I said this is a spoiler review. Of course, them visiting his mother, played by Felicia Rashad, and her, talking to her, having to tell his mother that he's taking the fight, whichever. Unbeknownst to them, she's thinking they're talking about something else. Oh, she's pregnant. And she's like, oh, the shiny hair, the glowy skin. So when you're going to tell me you're pregnant, she's like, it's like, your mother's funny. She's got jokes, whatever. And then she's drinking a glass of wine and she spits it out. That was funny because a lot of us in the theater laughed, whichever. Them taking the drug, the little drug thing just to see if she is, come to find out she is. She's excited, but then one thing that does come up is the situation with the hearing impaired. What if the baby is this, whichever? No, we never think about it. It could be hereditary, whichever. So that was one of those things, they want to be parents, but she didn't think so soon. She wants to work on her music career, building up that whatever. Dealing with a record label, trying to get her stuff out there, always being, of course, there for Adonis, but wanting to feel like she's doing something she loves and enjoys, so much so like he does with doing the boxing. So I love that, like I said, Rocky having this, father-son situation, of course, dealing with Ivan and Victor, their father-son bond, and then, of course, dealing with, first-time parents and just that whole aspect was nice. I like that. Now, with the first fight between the two, let me tell you, I love how the scenes of the fight, I just love how it just the way it was done, the choreography and all that. Like I said, you have a true boxer doing it with somebody who, of course, is learning boxing, Michael B., whatever and all. It looks really very realistic the way it was. And let's just say that it did really well and it was really good. As you all know, it was definitely going to be more than one boxing match, whatever, because of the way things go down in a couple parts of the scenes. Of course, him getting, it's a disqualification because Victor, does a sneaky shot, whatever, when he's down, on the ground, whatever, and all, and does him wrong, whatever. He hurts some ribs, whatever. And of course, Rocky's not there. There's a scene where he's watching from the TV inside the restaurant, and you can tell he's, you hear him saying, do this, do left, get him right here, whatever. And it's just really unfortunate that he just feels like he's hasty. And I like the scene where you see Dolph, and Florian talking, in Russian, whatever, talking about, you see him, he's like, he's scared. And you can tell he truly was at certain parts of the scene, whatever, because he didn't realize the magnitude of what he got himself into, whatever, the way he was, even though he was training really good, he didn't train the way he needed to be. And that is what caused him, Florian, Victor's character, to get the upper hand so many damn times in those scenes. It was just ferocious. Those hits, the look, the stare down he would get when he'd walk away from him, when he'd have him down, when he would pin him in a corner and he couldn't get out of it. It was just, it was really good. And let's just say that it kind of humbled him. It brought him down a little bit. Of course, he had to heal over time. Of course, she's pregnant, she wanted to be there, but of course her going to confide into his mother, I don't feel like, he's not really where he needs to be, he's not focused, whatever. She's like, oh no, be there for him, try to help, love him, whatever and all that, but just know he's a grown man. He knew what he was getting himself into. You can still be there and love him, whichever and all that, but she's her own person. She needs certain things from herself, whatever. Her stomach's getting big, whatever, and eventually, when the situation happens where Rocky does show up at the hospital when he's gotten really hurt, then that was the bad part, because he tells him, you want to be here, you want to kind of coach me, you want to console me, you want to tell me some things now, and he doesn't want to hear it. And of course, Bianca's like, D, don't be like that, you all got to work this out. This is what happens. Of course, the baby eventually is born. There's a moment where, of course, Bianca wants to go and work on her music at the studio, whatever, and all that. And then it shows her, gone, whatever, and the baby starts crying, so cute, whatever. He decides to take the baby to one of the little boxing places that he normally goes to, the one with Apollo Creed's face on it. And he's just having this moment where he has to have this little venting session where he's hitting, the bag, whatever, and all, and he's kind of having out, whatever. And it's the cutest part, because he's just like, he turns to his little baby girl, and he's like, sorry, baby, daddy's being a little bitch. At least he admitted it. And everybody in the theater laughed, because it was the truth. He's just having this moment where, and he has to get it out. Just like his mother said, he needs to work on himself from inside out. Only he can do that. Even though Bianca, wants to be helpful, but there's only so much she can do. He has to work through this, whichever. So of course from there, they're saying his time, with the belt, he has to pick another fight. Does he want something small? Of course, one of his, buddies or whatever, who's, one of his, trainers is like, you got you can either do a rematch, whatever, because, right now it's still disqualified because of what Victor did, so they can do a rematch of sorts. Otherwise, you have to pick one, because if not, you can lose your belt. So eventually he decides he wants to do the fight, whichever. And of course, Rocky does reach out to him, courtesy of his mother, setting him up, whatever, and all, confronting him, and he has a little talk with him. He explains to him again, when I asked you the first time, what are you fighting for? He finally admits he was scared, how he feels, what he's doing this for, whatever, and all that. You definitely know you have a lot to lose, but now you're going in there, your mind's open. Now you have to find a way. He said, if you want to train, you can't train the same way you trained before. You have to do it another way. Plus, with this fight, they made it where the conditions is he has to go to Russia. Now you're the champ. I would never think in real life a champ would actually have to do that, and I wouldn't think that was realistic there, because I'm like, really? That's why I thought, okay, that part is cliche, because that's based off kind of the way they did in Rocky 4, because we know in real life, no, if you're the champ, it happens where you want it to happen, not where the opponent's going to be at, whichever, which I thought was rather weird, but whichever. But I like when Rocky was making the point to him, he said, we're going to do the fight with him and all that. You need to do this. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, if you do this, he's like, well, okay, I see what you're saying. He's like, because you won. That's right. I won my fight against Ivan Drago. You see how they both are shorter than Ivan and Victor, whatever. Now, he knew the proper way to do the fight sequences and all that to get the upper hand. This time you need to listen. And it's not like, he wanted him to go through this for him to learn the lesson, but he had to learn some way. Now this time, if you're going to do the fight, Rocky's going to be behind you. He needs that support, and he knows he does, whichever. And this is kind of how they get together. You see the scenes of him out there, what it looks like to be in the desert, whatever, digging, holes into the, ground, hanging from the stuff being hit with a ball, whatever. They have some sort of chain with a wheel on, tire on him, strengthening that neck, working on his side of his ribs that got injured, just getting him perfected. I love the scene of him fighting where he had to put his leg within one of the tires with the other guy, his opponent, and he couldn't take it out of it. That's kind of a way where it keeps him, in a certain focus where he has to know where to go and he has to fight him. That was really done really well, and just, him falling down in the midst of a run while Rocky's, leading him, he falls, and then he's kind of having these moments, he's having little visions or whatever, and he kind of gets up and he finishes that run. And I love the music. I just love everything about that, because, you're going to have that training montage. They got to give it to you with the music, and it was done very well. Same thing with Victor, Drago doing his training, whichever. But I will say this, before I get to that last part for the last fight, there's a scene where he's at a dinner and they're in Russia, whatever, and all that, and the people, the powers that be, I don't know if it's considered, maybe considered the Russian president, I don't know, and he's having this little big dinner, and of course Ivan and Victor are there, and they give him this little box, and this, of course, is a Drago pair, a boxer, the boxer shorts, whatever, with the Drago and all that, and they love it and all that. But then somebody walks in, and like I said, again, spoiler, it is Bridget Nielsen's character. And that was very interesting, because when you see the scene of her walking around, of course you see Ivan, but you see Victor. Now, that is his mother. For some reason, she left them. She wanted to know the part. She's probably thinking of Ivan being a loser. She might have stayed with him for a while, but then he was just, not fulfilling the duties of being a certain stature for her, maybe a certain lifestyle. Clearly, because when you see her walking, she's decked out in a beautiful dress, whatever, sleek hair back, whatever, and all that. You can't miss her. She is like somewhat of of an Adonis herself. Tall, sleek, whichever. She has a presence, and she kind of looks over there, and I felt so bad for Victor, because you can just feel like came from literally a broken home of sorts, honestly, and just to know that this woman is here, didn't want to be around him, didn't want to raise him, didn't want to nurture him in any way, whatever. He eventually gets up, whatever, and they have that little argument, Ivan and Victor, whatever. And of course, I love how Dolph, is explained to him why they have to do this, and he's like, and he eventually like, I lost, but you won't lose. And it was just so strong. You hear the people in the theater, it was like, yes, it was like Victor wants more from his dad, but he's not getting. His father's all about this fight. He definitely just wants a revenge fight. He does not care about any emotions of his sons whatsoever. And that was a sad part. Oh my goodness. But moving forward, we have the fight coming up with, of course, he's there, whatever. Of course, Victor comes out, he got the whole crowd, Drago, whatever. Because, of course, Ivan's like, listen. And you can hear them saying Drago went on. He's feeling whatever. He comes in, he's on the big, big screen, whatever. He's walking in, whatever. Then, of course, it shows, Adonis in the back, whatever. He's kind of, getting his head right, getting a clear mind, whatever. And, of course, that's when you see the scene from the trailer. He's like, okay, it's time. They get, come up. He's got his other trainer guy. He's got his another one in the back, and of course him. And then of course his girl Bianca leads the train, the trail down to the ring, whatever, singing one of her songs, whatever, which I thought was really, really a nice touch, whichever. The fight, second time around, really good. Of course, a couple, sequences, whatever. Of course, Victor not realizing that he's changed up his format, his way of fighting, whatever, and all that. And it was a good fight, because I think they made it to like round, I think 8 or 9, somewhere like that. And as it gets closer and closer, you can see good licks, trying to keep him, Adonis in the corner, but it's not working this time. He's able to fight, but then he gets a couple, and of course he tells him to finish him off, Ivan, hit them ribs, whatever, and all some of those parts that he knew he got him good. He gets him good, but then it's a scene where you see Adonis is on the thing, he hits that the ring, whichever, he gets up, whatever, and of course Rocky's in his head, whatever. It was just such a good scene. I will say, I didn't mean to overglaze it. The scene where you see the little stare down between Ivan and Rocky, classic. Because I love that from the original one in Rocky 4. Just classic. But yes, in the end, Adonis pulls through. But I will say this. The part with Ivan finally realizing everything his son's, down to the part, his face is bloodied up, his eyes or whatever and all that, and he's just like, he finally stands up, he flags the time, he's just like, stop it. He's like, stop it. And of course, his son did all this, and basically in ways to please his dad or whatever and all that. And of course, probably to prove something to himself, whatever, and to his father, he definitely can do this, whatever. Because he kept getting back up. Even though when Adonis kept knocking him down, he kept getting right there like, oh my God, is this going to end, whatever and all that. This brother, he won't stay down, but that, it's just not in him's nature, the way he was raised, whatever. He's like, I'm going to fight until I cannot truly get back up. And then eventually, they stop it, whatever. And then when he has this little moment, of course, with Bianca, his mom gives a gesture. She's so proud of her son. Rocky tells him, he said, now it's about you now. And I love that scene. I almost wanted to start crying when he said that, because it was so poignant because of that, and I'll get into that in a second. But the part with Ivan and Victor, when he's just like Victor kept pushing him, whatever, and eventually he brings him into the brace. He's like, it's okay. And I love that. It was just like, you made this all about yourself. It was never about your son. You raised your son to be like this unstoppable force, in the ring with a strong fist that could cause destruction like you 30 years prior. It's like, this has to come to an end. And it's like, this is enough already. It's like enough. And he just needed to stop this. It was long overdue, whichever. You can't keep treating your son like this. So I was kind of glad that was made, because there's a scene at the end, of course, in the ring down at the below. She's sitting out there with her guy, whatever, watching. And of course, he sees her and he's doing his thing, but eventually she leaves, and it just hurt. It was almost like it all culminated to hurt him, whichever, to the point where Ivan realizes, is how much more hurt can your son truly bear. But I love, of course, when it shows towards the end of the movie, the scene, of course, Adonis going to his father's gravesite, having to talk to him like, Dad, I did it, all the reasons for what he did, whatever, and then of course him wanting to, like, I want to show, I want you to meet somebody, and of course bringing Bianca and his little baby girl, which was so fitting. I love that. Then of course you've seen a scene with Victor, running and running, just probably doing regular exercise, and his father this time around beside him, running with him kind of looking at his dad, whatever, and just kind of somewhat content. They're back in Russia, whichever. Then you see a scene with Rocky seeing his son. He finally decides, because at first I was wondering whose door he was knocking. I thought he was home. It shows him with his bags going up to, what looked like some sort of, row house. And it's actually his son, I'm thinking it's, what is it, Milo Ventimiglia. I could be saying his name incorrectly. My apologies. He plays his son, Bobby, in the movie. And it's just a touching scene. He finally, makes the first step to see his son. His son graciously opens the door, and he's like, and his little son, his grandson, comes to the door, and he's like, hello, speaking to him, just the cutest can be. And it was true. He makes a comment saying, you look like, he looks just like your mother, Adrian. And I kid you not, he really did. The little boy who plays his grandson really does. Beautiful eyes, dark hair, just the features look like Adrian. It was just so nice. And they had a little hug. He said, you want to come in? And he's like, yes. And he gives him this big hug. All the tears that flow on that scene. I can't even admit it enough, whichever. But yes, I love that beautiful ending with the conclusion with all three, dynamics, Bianca, Adonis, Ivan, Victor, and then Rocky with his son, Bobby. It was just nice. I love the way that ending was, how they did this. But like he said to Adonis in the ring when he's sitting down, looking above at him, he's like, it's all you now. And like they said, moving forward, I know that Michael B. Jordan put it out that he would love to be considered to do another one. And we'll have to see where they'll want to go if they do a third one. Not maybe the third and final one. I don't know if they're going to be like the other Rockies where they went past 4 and kept going 5 and 6, whichever, and just did not stop for a minute. So we'll have to see. But he does leave it, the thought open, the door open to the possibility of a Creed 3. And like I said, this was, to me, honestly, a worthy sequel. I know a lot of people say they would probably eventually have. We didn't know how sooner, since the first one was in 2015, but it was such a great sequel. Some movies, I'll be honest with you, I don't care when they make the sequels, because sometimes the first one holds up just fine. Don't do it just to make it about as if this is a money grab, because sometimes it is kind of like that, and it's rather unfortunate, because in the end, it just looks really bad, whichever. But this one, it was, again, a worthy sequel. I loved every minute of this. Now, when I think about a lot of boxing films, I have a couple of them that I love. I love me some, what's the word? Oh, gosh. Raging Bull. I love $1 Million Baby. Of course, I love Rocky, the first one. And I love Rocky 4. That's another one. It's in the list. This one is now in the list. Creed, of course, was good, but I really love this one even more. Creed 2 was wonderful. My rating on this, honestly, I don't do this often, and I said this before. The other movie I just recently did this year, whatever, it's other movies or whichever as years go on, I did Mission Impossible 6, Fallout. That's a 10. I'm gonna give this a 10. Now a lot of people are like, oh, this is the same type of thing, whatever. No, but hey, this is my thoughts, whatever. But that's what I want to rate it. There's really nothing wrong, honestly, with this movie. The pacing was done very well. They gave it, a little bit more extra depth, not making it all about the fight. They had other layers to the movie, which I loved, and that's what makes this a good movie overall. Stephen Cable Jr. did an awesome job directing this out the gate. Like I said, he's only done a couple of short films, a couple of TV shows, directing TV shows and all that. This is going to do well. I feel like this is going to do great at the theater the first weekend out, going into the next couple of weekends to some other good stuff comes out in December. And I just hope this opens up, some doors for him for some other movies down the road. I want to see what other areas, he can get into besides doing certain, dramas and things of that magnitude. That just lets us know it's the potential there. It's definitely potential there for him. And I love that Ryan did step back and let him do this because, like I said, he did a wonderful job. I loved everything about the movie. This was great. I know this is a longer review than usual, but since I'm a fan of the Rocky franchise and, of course, now the Creed franchise, I didn't want to just glaze through this really quickly and just say anything, all thing. I really wanted to get in depth in the actual movie and just discuss it in this whole. That's why I chose to make this a spoiler review for you guys. So I want you all to comment below. Of course, the ones who saw us, and anybody who's commenting should have already seen it. Whoever has not, sorry for you. I did state that I was making this a spoiler, whichever. I'm not doing no spoiler free. I wanted to get right into the meat of the movie. But yes, this was done very well. Of course, Michael B. Jordan. excellent. Tessa Thompson, excellent. Florian Munteau did awesome in this. You know, for one of the ones to be one of his first actual movies to do, he did a great job. He showed a lot of emotion, you know, not a lot of character like discussions, whatever. He had a lot of lines, whatever, but the lines he did have were very effective. Definitely love Dolph Lundgren, whichever. Can't say what else can I say about Sylvester Stallone, whichever. You know, very, very well. Again, everybody did their thing in this movie, and like I said, please go see this. You all, I know you all will enjoy this. I did immensely. I look forward to adding this to my collection. So yes, most definitely. So you guys, I hope you enjoyed my review. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. You guys take care.